Hello, boys and girls. We are going to continue on with our extraordinary adventure of Ordinary Basil, and we are now on chapter 3. And chapter 3 is called Help! Peering into the opening, Basil hoped to find some kind of friendly shelter. A shaft of daylight was all that pierced the darkness of the room behind the bars. This opening was actually the top of a very dark room, and in the dim shadows he could make out a barren floor far below. What was that down there? Something moved in the darkness. Not something, someone. It was Louise. Louise, Basil whispered as loud as he dared. Her head snapped up, and she looked at him in surprise as he struggled in vain to squeeze through the bars. Quickly, Louise put her finger to her lips. Shh, she whispered. You need to be silent. Then she pointed at the cell door. She was being watched. How did Louise get there? Why was she being held captive, and who would kidnap her? But for now, the answers didn't matter. Basil just had to find a way to get her out. Hold on, he whispered. I'll be back. Searching the grounds for a way to sneak in, Basil came to see that this foreboding place was more of a fortress than a home. And the industrial smokestacks told him that something big must be going on inside. Coming around a corner, Basil spotted a small opening that didn't have bars or locks. Like the iron fence, it was too small for an opening for a grown man to get through, but it was big enough for a boy his age. Upon closer inspection, Basil saw that it was just an ordinary coal chute. Perfect. He had no idea where it led, but he quickly crawled inside. The combination of his sopping wet clothing and thick coal dust made the metal walls of the chute very slick. Zoom! Basil's slide down the pitch-black tunnel was a lot faster than he wanted, but he managed to keep himself from screaming. I don't think I would have been able to do that, even though he really wanted to. His frightening slide ended with a muffled thud, and Basil found himself in an enormous coal bin, far larger than he had ever seen. Peering out, he could see rail tracks that must have been used to haul the coal. Following the tracks, he could see the glow of a roaring fire, but it was more than just a fire. It was a blast furnace. Can you see? Basil was covered from head to toe in coal soot. As filthy and sneezy as he felt, it was great to be able to hide in the shadows, and the roar of the blast furnace muffled the sound of his footsteps. Tiptoe, tiptoe. He moved about the immense underground labyrinth, undetected. That means nobody could see him or hear him. Nobody noticed him. Doorways were everywhere. Stairs led up to more doors, and hallways connected to even more hallways. A tangled system of pipes and heavy beams supported pulleys linked with heavy chains. Something important is going on here, Basil reasoned. And when something important is being done with this amount of secrecy, it can't be anything good. So far, dumb luck had been on Basil's side, but he knew he couldn't depend on that. He needed a plan. But I'm just an ordinary boy, he thought. What do I know about such things? How can I make a plan when I don't even know where I am? Just as things seemed to be doomed to failure, an oddly tall man appeared from one of the hallways and headed up a stairway to a door. The man's slow, purposeful gait made Basil think he might be someone of importance. What do I have to lose by following him? Basil wondered, hoping the man might lead him to the cell holding Louise. See, there he goes. And there's Basil. Basil kept himself hidden in the shadows of the dungeon-like corridor as he followed the tall man. Echoing through the hallways was a constant boom, 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 the methodical noise of machinery. Boom, boom. The sound became louder and louder as Basil kept pace, trying not to lose sight of the important-looking man. Soon the noise was almost deafening, and it seemed to be coming from a hallway the man passed before disappearing through another door. What could be making so much noise? Is this a factory? Basil wondered. He peeked around the corner of the hallway, making sure no one was there to see him. He stopped in his tracks. What on earth? The roar of change and grinding gears overpowered the sound of his voice. "What is this place?" he whispered aloud. The answer to that innocent question would soon have an effect on the whole world. The hallway entrance had led him to a huge multi-level room. It was indeed a factory, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The complex assembly line and machinery were far beyond the technology of Basil's time, and as he listened to the boom, boom, boom of the heavy metal chains and machines, he thought he could detect some sort of strange musical theme in it all. But it wasn't music. It was like the opposite of music. It made Basil feel sick inside. What are they making, he wondered. Whatever it was fearful, not friendly. The metal objects passing him on hooks looked like life-size dolls of some sort, only made of metal, and Basil could guess from the look of them that these weren't toys. On the level below, carried on a conveyor belt, were the bottom half of these machines. Is that how they move around, Basil wondered? Are they big mechanical dolls of some sort? Suddenly, a horn blasted, the loudest horn Basil had ever heard. Having lived in a lighthouse, he had heard some pretty loud horns on ships passing by in the fog. But this one beat them all, and Basil had to hold his hands over his ears to quiet the painful sound. Mercifully, it finally stopped. Must be a break time for the workers, Basil reasoned. He was right. And when the workers left, Basil took his chance and went down to get a closer look. What was going on? He still hid in the shadows as much as possible in case someone returned. Looking closer at the machines didn't reveal what they were or what they could do, but the whole place gave Basil a frightening feeling. At first, he thought the arms of these mechanical men were simply pipes, but then it struck him. They weren't pipes, they were more like small cannon barrels. Voices began to echo down the hallway, and the sound of gears started to fill the room. Basil panicked. He needed to find a hiding place or escape quickly. I'm going to get caught. His only choice was a door on a second level. He ran as fast as he could, hoping it was unlocked and that no one was on the other side. His hands were still coated with coal dust, making it hard to get a grip on the doorknob. In minutes, the workers would come back, and Basil was still in plain sight. Desperate, he tried to use his coat sleeve to get a better grip, but the doorknob was just as slick as his hands. Oh no! The knob began to turn on its own. Someone was coming from the other side. There's nowhere to hide. The door is at the end of the room, and if I run the other way, I'll run into the returning workers. As the door swung open, Basil flattened himself against the wall as tightly as he could. Instinctively, he shut his eyes, as if that would make him invisible. Footsteps, shuffling papers. Then something brushed against his face. Ooh. Are you in suspense? Yeah, me too. That's where we're going to stop for today. So tomorrow we will finish chapter 3. Bye, guys. See you later.